I'm Alexander McCall Smith. I was born in Zimbabwe in 1948, but I've lived most of my life in Scotland. I'm a writer of novels. An intimate dinner with friends, in a pleasant climate, with good conversation. Can't bring myself to think of that. Too frightening. I greatly admire the poet W.H. Auden, who wrote the most beautiful poetry. He used the language in a wonderful way, and I get great consolation from his work. I have a tendency to denial, and that's probably not a very good thing. I don't like narcissism, but that doesn't worry narcissists. They're very happy, they're very pleased with themselves, so it doesn't matter to them at all whether we like them or not. I don't think any of the virtues is particularly overrated. All the virtues have their role. I would love to be able to play the piano well. I would love to be able to sit down and play palm chord piano to the enjoyment of others. That would be wonderful talent. But it's too late, because learning the piano as an adult is extremely difficult. And so one can just fantasize and how nice it would be. Of course, you can get these electric pianos now, where you could just sit and pretend to play it. That, of course, would not perhaps be quite as satisfying. I would quite like to live in a small village in Italy somewhere. A village with a few stray cats and an old priest and a couple of cafes with tables outside where you can drink coffee and watch the rest of the village conducting its business around you. Cypress trees in the background and occasionally angels crossing the sky, just occasionally. That would be good. I suppose the thing that challenges me most is answering the moral demands that one has in life, the demand that one should, if at all possible, like one's fellow human beings as much as one can, the demand to treat everybody fairly, all these moral claims that are made on us, and that really is quite a challenge. I'm as weak as anybody else and tend not to meet them as much as I should. But that is a challenge, I think. The challenge of trying to lead a good life. I suppose I get very great satisfaction at doing a piece of work in a way which I feel is good. And I think that when I complete a piece of writing, for example, and if I feel that I have done something which is reasonably good, I get great satisfaction from that. So that's the satisfaction of composition or creation. I think despair comes in many different shapes and forms, and it depends on the individual as to what makes them feel despair. In my case, I suppose loneliness, isolation, a sense of not belonging to the place that I'm in would give rise to despair. Sometimes when I'm traveling, I have to travel a great deal. I find myself in a hotel room and I'm in a place where I know nobody and don't really know where I am, and that can be bleak. But of course it's a bleakness which passes. I don't really feel that it's appropriate to describe oneself, and in that respect I'm out of sync with most people these days who are quite happy to describe themselves. Look at the way people describe themselves in their CVs. I shudder with embarrassment when I read a modern CV, which says, I'm a highly integrated person. I get on well with people. I'm wonderful. I could never say that about myself. I could say I'm highly disintegrated, I don't get on, and I'm awful. I feel safe and secure in winter with a nice fire in the house. Knowledge that the cellar contains at least some bottles of red wine and the kitchen has some food in it. That's about it. I feel very safe and secure. Or a warm bath is a wonderful thing. A warm bath in which one can read a nice novel for about half an hour. I should hate to be a driver in modern conditions, a professional driver, a taxi driver. I think that they must have a very difficult existence. I would probably choose to be a well-cared-for domestic cat living in a dog-free neighborhood in a fairly warm climate with interesting owners who liked Mozart. The Roman poet Horace, splendid man, he had a small wine farm and a rich patron, and he wrote really rather nice odes. It would have been good to be him. Those who talk about awards never get them. Nemesis is at our elbow. And if you talk about awards, then you won't get them. It's rather like saying you don't believe in Santa Claus. You'll get no Christmas presents. I would love to be a printer of an old-fashioned sort and to set metal type and then print from it. That would be a wonderfully fulfilling job. Of course, now printing is a matter of computers and it doesn't have quite the same romance. But imagine having a proper old-fashioned printer's workshop. I was brought up in a society which was very unjust, and I didn't realize the extent of that injustice and the unhappiness that it occasioned when I was a youth, and I wish that I had. I would like to do one or two rather odd little things, one of which is to investigate the Freudian Quarter of Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires is the most remarkable city which has a quarter in which I understand streets are named after prominent figures in the psychoanalytical movement, and where you can, if you listen carefully in cafes, hear people talking about the id, the ego and the superego in the same way in which people talk about football in less favoured countries. That would be fascinating. I don't have a personal motto, but I did know somebody some years ago who had a wonderful personal motto, which I think would probably be something by which most of us should try to live, and that is, be kind. Very simple words, but I think very powerful ones. Be kind. No, your questions are very nice questions. This is great, this is therapy. I feel tremendously relaxed. What do you charge for this, by the way?